We used to have this conversation where like when us Ashkenazi white people would go to like Jewish summer camp, our Persian friends would disappear and go to like a Wharton school, like pop-up shop in Westwood.
LawFlip, objection, Your Honor. Turn the game upside down. LawFlip, objection, Your Honor. Turn the game upside down.
Okay, what's up, everybody? Welcome to LawFlip, the first episode. It's an unfiltered conversation about law, life, politics, tech, and everything in between. I'm Benjy Smith. This is Louis Benowitz, and we have our guest,
Sam Mollaei.
We're going to talk about all things business, lawsuits, technology, and I promise you, you're going to be a better person by listening and watching to this episode. Thank you. We'd like to thank our sponsor, Filevine. Filevine is a cloud-based case management software designed for legal professionals with customization and efficiency driving tools for your practice. Technology is hot, right, Sam?
It's everything.
So allow technology to give you the time you need to fight for your clients and run your business. Friends of LawFlip get a 10% discount. Did you guys hear that? A 10% discount off license fees. Give us the credit for referring you by emailing engage@filevine.com. So it's 2019, and the first time we actually met was today, but I've been stalking you online for a while. You have all sorts of cool ads online for your businesses, but let's start with what we have in common. So we're from the 818, we're both lawyers, we're both Jewish, we both started our own law firms, and we're both extremely good looking. So one thing that we don't have in common is you have over 1,100 Google reviews. How did you do that? How has it helped your business? And what do you tell people that dismiss reviews?
Okay, so this story started 3 years ago. Out of nowhere, I got a 1-star review. And I was like devastated. I'm like, and at the time, I think I only had like 3 or 4 reviews. So a 1-star review brought my average down like a lot. I'm like, who is this? This wasn't one of my clients. It wasn't one of my prospects. And I still to this day, I still don't know who it was. But I'm like, what am I going to do? And the answer was, okay, I guess I'm going to start collecting reviews. So kind of made a goal for myself first. The first goal was 100 reviews. And at the time also, I was learning how to build links, how to get links from people. So what most people do is after they finish off with the client, they say, hey, can you leave me a review? Here's the link. Don't do that. Don't do that. That's what most people do. And that's the reason why most people don't get reviews. Instead, you say, hey, do you mind if I send you a link to leave me a review? And then that's the question. And you want to get them to say yes first, then you send them the link. It's very subtle. It's a very subtle thing, but that's the reason why I have so many reviews. That along with like a follow-up sequence where I'm able to send that ask multiple times. And then once they say yes, then again, more sequence. It says, okay, here's the link until they actually do give me a review. I have about 3,000 clients. I have and it's worth, as you said, about, I think I have about 1,100 right now. So I have about a 35%. No.
Is there anybody even close?
No.
That's amazing. So just that, I mean, like, what does that do for you? Like, what is that, the fact alone that you have 1,100 reviews, what does that do for your business?
I could say whatever, that I'm the best, I could do this for you. But once they read somebody else saying that about you, that's a lot more convincing. So it's kind of like having every review is like a little salesman.
Love it. So what I've experienced is when I was in middle school, my brother used to we used to have this conversation where like when us Ashkenazi white people would go to like Jewish summer camp, our Persian friends would disappear and go to like a Wharton school, like pop-up shop in Westwood. What was that pop-up shop like? And what do you think makes Persian people so uniquely suited to be incredible business people?
I think it starts off with connections and relationships. I think it's not just a Persian thing. I think it's something in our culture that we build relationships, really focus on the relationships first before we do anything else. We don't go from not knowing somebody and asking. We go from not knowing somebody to say, hey, how can I add value to this relationship? What's going on with you? How's it going with your life? We build that relationship first, and then everything else comes from behind that. So
okay, but where's the Persian Wharton school?
No Persian Wharton school, just literally mentorship.
All right, so how did you have the audacity to take a look at the entire law world, which is like very old school, against technology, very hard to innovate, and think like, this is the way that I'm going to do it. I'm going to do online tutorials. I'm going to use all sorts of technology to advance my business and work like on your business instead of in your business.
You should basically build your own path. It starts with creating your own path. I got exposed to all these books and all this education that was posted online about how to how to start a virtual business, online business. So, and at the time, it was like about 4 years ago, I realized that this kind of virtual model is not applied to law. So, and I was kind of intrigued by it. There's like two huge worlds. There's the law world and then the whole online business world. Why can't we just combine those things together and kind of create that kind of virtual kind of model? So that's what I did, is just combining those two worlds together.
Sure. And then there's also kind of this thought that you basically can't be a successful lawyer unless you're miserable. You have an adorable smile, but in addition to that, you look happy. Are you happy?
I'm super happy, honestly. I'm so grateful. I don't remember the last day where it felt like work for me.
Do you know how unique that is, right? What percentage of lawyers do you think have the type of gratitude and happiness that you have on a day-to-day basis?
I think the lawyers that are on their own, I think, have the highest form of that. Kind of building your own path, kind of having control of your own vision. Just
so we can give a context, out of all those hundreds, would you say that there's a high percentage, medium, or low percentage that are happy?
Very low. And it's because we're kind of confined to this kind of structure of what law is supposed to be. What's
that structure?
Kind of just very black and white, a lot of papers, a lot of discovery, a lot of things. I've been through that, so I know what it's like. It doesn't have to be that way.
If I'm a betting man, based on everything that I know about you with the reviews and just your success, I got to think that you have some rituals, some daily rituals. What, if any, routines do you have that really help you have that happiness on a day-to-day basis?
Sure. So it was a lesson that I learned, and I think they told us in orientation, my law school. They said, every day do something that you love. Okay. So it's that way you have something to look forward to. So whether that's the gym or recording podcasts, whatever it is, just find one thing that you're looking forward to that day. That way you could do, you go through life and be like, you know what, doesn't matter. I'm still at 5 o'clock. I'm still going to go to the gym. I look forward to it. I'm going to put on my AirPods, listen to music, work out. So that's one thing. I do have a ritual. It's a morning ritual. There's a couple of components of it. The first one is the easiest one and the one that has the most impact. It's affirmations. If you guys don't do affirmations, it works so well. It feels like a shortcut to like getting anything you want in life. Affirmations are pretty much statements that you want to ingrain in yourself, and all you practically have to do, just write down that statement as you are, not as you want to. Just say, you don't say I want to become rich. No, instead I will generate 10 clients this month, this week, and you basically write down a flashcard and you basically verbalize it every morning to yourself. I have about 10 to 15 of those that I basically verbalize myself, things that I want, and I say it as it is. That way, honestly, every time I've done it, like it becomes like within 3 to 6 months, I would say that's how long it takes. Usually it becomes true.
What do you think is behind that? Is there a psychological component that just you're putting it out in the world and you now are committing to it?
So just by imagining it and saying it and verbalizing it, it becomes closer to the reality. And then your actions will follow your thoughts, and then your results will follow your actions.
Are there any other key rituals or habits other than the affirmations that you do?
For 1 minute, close your eyes in the morning and just visualize your perfect day exactly how you want it to be. And it honestly doesn't take too long. It's literally, affirmations is 3 minutes. Visualization is 1 minute. After that, you want to kind of open up your mind. If you can read and learn something in the morning. And then after that, meditate. It's what 99% of the top 1% of the people do in the world. Tim Ferriss talks about this. It's like, I think he has a Tools of Titans. Yeah. He talks about like literally, or he went and interviewed, Tim Ferriss went and interviewed 300 of the top people at the peak of their career. And he said that the number one common denominator between all of them is that they all meditate.
So how do we get lawyers who are the antithesis of meditators and visualizers and affirmation type people? How do we get them to make that mindset shift? How did you make that mindset shift? Because it's just something that so many of us struggle with. First,
you got to know your energy levels. You got to know whether you're a morning person or a night person, where you are. So once you know what time that is, you got to dedicate 20 minutes to yourself. If you cannot slow down and dedicate 20 minutes to yourself, like, then what are you doing? Like, just 20 minutes of your time just to make your entire day better. It's
So when did you start doing this?
3-4 years ago. Just
And how much has your life changed since you did this?
dramatically. I could even like say like how much I've grown just from last week of doing it. Like every month, every week, I'm like growing from this.
I know for me, like this time last year, a book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, really changed my life and really gave me the inspiration, along with other things, to start my own law firm. I want to read you a quote that I just read. It goes like this. The first book I read when I was on this journey was by Tim Ferriss, called The 4-Hour Workweek. I learned 3 principles from this book: automation, scalable, virtual online business. Those are the 3. I fell in love with these principles so much that I wouldn't make any business decision unless it aligned with these 3 principles. I refused to do hourly work. I refused to meet clients in person. I refused to follow the quote unquote traditional way of running a law firm. Instead, I ran a virtual law firm that was automated and scalable, where I wasn't tied to any physical location or a strict 9-to-5 work schedule. I work on my own time, mostly from home. I did it my way, as long as it aligned with those 3 principles: automated, scalable, virtual. Do you know who wrote that?
Yeah, that was from one of my Facebook posts from a couple of months ago. Yeah, so that book really was like my kind of turning point of just realizing these 3 key principles. Again, it's automation, which basically means you create a system where it's running on itself. So let's just say when it comes to my law firm, literally my client generation is automated. That means clients are coming in on a consistent basis, on a daily, hourly basis, around the clock. And also once they become clients, the actual work is also automated, running on its own. Second is scalable. So whatever actions that I personally do have to be scalable. That means if somebody wants to meet with me in person to have lunch, I refuse that, because it's a one-to-one action. The only actions I do are have to scale out. That means this interaction we're having is super scalable. It's one conversation, but the output is times hundreds and thousands. So everything you do, make sure it's scalable. And then the third aspect is the virtual aspect. Is I try to make sure that I'm not tied into a physical location to do my job. That means I didn't have to hire people in person necessarily to run my thing. So everything in the beginning was set up remotely with virtual admins, virtual people, virtual processes and things like that.
It's amazing, because literally those 3 principles, which are kind of like consensus believed in by like the tech community and business community, and probably even big law, are frowned upon by the majority of attorneys. It's literally like you say that, it's like, stay away from me. Like that's crazy talk. And so it's amazing that you had the ability to read that and give a shot at applying it to law. And I hope that inspires a lot of people out there to know that there's just not one way to do it, like they tell you in law school. And that's amazing stuff. Something that you're working on recently is legal marketing. And talk about how there's this concept called sales funnels, which now I ask every single business person in the world. Everybody knows what they are, but I bet you out of 100 lawyers, 99.9 don't know what it is. How did you find out about it? What is it? And why is it crucial for lawyers to figure out?
So there's a community called ClickFunnels. If you just Google it or just go on Facebook. ClickFunnels is a community of online entrepreneurs who are looking to build a system to offer services, products, whatever, to be able to convince their prospects to buy or purchase or do whatever that they want the prospects to do. So I kind of got exposed to this 4 years ago. And at the time, there was no lawyers. There was only one other lawyer, actually. His name is Chris Small. At the time, he's like the only guy so I'm like, okay, I guess it sounds kind of intriguing. And at the time, I also had something to apply to. I luckily had a website and I was learning at the same time. So I'm like, okay, so let me just, whatever I will learn, go build it. So I started creating these things called funnels, which is basically, again, a system to be able to get clients online. And basically the last 4 years, I was like in the trenches. I would say building out, I probably built out at this point hundreds of funnels. I'm not joking, like literally hundreds of funnels, to be able to learn how to take somebody who needs something to convince them to say, hey, I'm the right person to do this job for them.
When I was in law school, there was no alternative voice like yours. The push was work until you, like, hey, you're making this grand bargain. You're going to make some money, but you're going to be miserable. You're going to accept it. There was never really an alternative voice that came and said, you know what, there's a different way to do it. that you could do it the way that Sam's talking about it. What's your biggest piece of advice of how to get that mindset shift that there's a different way to do it?
So take advantage the fact that you're young and you take risks. So when you're young, you have more control of your time. You're not tied into anything. Take that time to take risks, do ventures, meet up with people, do projects, learn, take risks. That's really what it comes down to. And the more conversations you have, the more you get exposed to different kind of information online. A lot of that right now, by the way, the best source of any information online right now these days is YouTube.
You watch don't you watch like how many hours a month do you watch YouTube?
Hours and hours and hours. Like probably,
it's so funny that you're able to proudly state that. Like if like you're a businessman and you are able to proudly state as a lawyer businessman that you watch hours of YouTube, whereas like the rest of lawyers would pretend like they've never watched a YouTube video, and likely the YouTube videos that they watch are probably not educational.
Just learning by itself, it doesn't mean anything at all. As soon as you learn something, okay, what can I do about it? Usually it's as soon as I learn something, I go create it to test it out. If I see opportunity there, then I'll delegate it out. I'll hand it off to somebody and say, hey, go do that. Yeah.
I love it. Okay. So you've given us a lot. Are you down to talk about some of the news topics today?
Let's do it.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. Getting right into it. So this last bar exam in California, the bar topics somehow got out early. So the pass rate for the bar exam went up 10%. The California bar, not surprisingly, said that the increase in the passage rate was not correlated to the release of the topics early. Basically, they said that the analysis has indicated that the premature release of the content had no statistically significant impact on the results of the 2019 examination. That's what they had to say. They had to cover their butt. How would finding out the subject matter of the bar exam have helped you, Sam?
So issue spotting is everything, right? That's the whole point of the bar exam, right? So obviously, if you know what issues you're going to be tested on, that gives you a huge advantage.
Sure.
At the same time, I don't think like we should go like, well, how come we didn't get that? Like, so what? Like, whatever. It is what it is. Let's move on. As long as other obscure things doesn't happen in the future, just move on. That's what I think.
I feel that. Lou, what's your take on it?
It's like getting a tentative ruling from a judge before a hearing. So if you're preparing for something where there's a long list of issues that you could have to deal with, if you're able to narrow that list of issues down, it's a big advantage. So in the bar exam, from what I recall, the list of topics wound up being all ones that you knew would appear on the test anyway, because it was the multi-state subjects and professional responsibility. So half the battle of studying for the California bar is that they give you 20 or however many topics, and most of them wind up being useless. You waste tons of time studying by them. And so if you could just throw those topics out, at minimum, you'll be better prepared.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I locked myself in a basement for 2 months, each for the New York bar exam and the California bar exam. And I was just so afraid of failing that I just busted my ass every day, all day. And thankfully I passed. But knowing what you know now about the bar exam, how would you have approached law school differently?
So actually about the actual bar exam, I right before I took the bar exam, one of my friends gave me advice. He basically told me that the bar exam is not testing you on how much you know, because more or less everybody studies for 2 or 3 months, and more or less everybody knows about the same. But it's a test. The bar exam is a test of how much you're willing to kind of stick it out and continue taking the exam once you're kind of like stressed out and kind of pressured when you think you're making a mistake. So he told me that, and then also said, when that happens, when you get stuck, just have these 2 words in your head: keep typing, keep typing, keep typing. And I'm like, okay, cool, sounds cool, good advice. So I went through the whole exam. Got to the last section, which was a performance section of the exam, and now we're into the section. I flipped the page, and as soon as I flipped the page, I saw this very obvious part where it basically showed the structure of how you should write your answer. And I basically realized that for the past hour, I was completely off. Like the entire structure was completely off. All of a sudden, my friend's voice came in my head. It's like, hey, this is gonna happen, and when that happens, keep typing. So I literally did that. I'm not joking. And I'm not embarrassed to say this. I literally took whatever I could get my hands on and I just started typing whatever I could. And when I got out of the bar exam, I called my friend like, yo, this happened. Like, dude, I don't know if I passed. And he's like, but did you keep typing? I'm like, yeah. He's like, okay, then don't worry. You probably passed.
That's amazing.
And that's what literally happened. So
amazing.
Make sure to keep typing.
Lou, what would you have done if anything different in law school, knowing what you know now about the bar exam?
I probably would have found more interesting things to do with my time, spent more time networking, taken more electives that just seemed interesting, not spent as much time taking the sort of classes you know will appear on the bar exam, because you know what? You just wind up studying the Barbary outline anyway, and if you're someone who's good at standardized testing, you'll probably pass it. And if you're not, then your challenge is figuring out how to pass the test, which still has nothing to do with what you're studying in law school.
And that's what's so crazy. Like, people don't understand that literally the stuff that you learn in law school has zero to do with passing the bar exam. Like, you could literally never go to law school, take Barbary for 2 months, and pass. So let's move on to the craziest case of the week. So a man is suing Burger King because the meatless Impossible Whopper is cooked on the same grill as meat products, the lawsuit alleges. The class action lawsuit filed in the Southern District of Florida claims that although the burger chain advertises its vegan option as meat-free, it's contaminated by meat byproduct because it's cooked on the same grill as meat products. So the suit accuses Burger King of false advertising and benefiting monetarily from offering a vegan option, which is not in fact vegan. So I'm going to give my take here. I may be alone, but I don't think this lawsuit is crazy. I'm not kosher, but if I was, I would not appreciate a place advertising itself as being kosher and then cooking the non-kosher meat on the same stove and having all the grease from the non-kosher stuff roll onto my kosher meat. So I think there's a real point here. But the bigger point, this is the much bigger point, because it's all about the money. The Impossible Burger has been deemed a huge success for Burger King, fueling its best quarter in 4 years. If I'm Burger King, you settle this lawsuit, put this guy in a commercial, cater to your vegan audience. You don't take the hottest product that's fueled your business and poop all over it. But I want to know your take, Lou.
This one's a little tricky because on the one hand, I actually can relate to Burger King's position because Burger King is not in the business of catering to people's dietary restrictions. It operates absolutely fast food restaurants in most of the world. And so if you're someone who, let's say, grew up with kosher, you would have it in your mind like this place, regardless of the ingredients it uses, there's no way its grill is going to be clean. On the other hand, Burger King is going out of its way to advertise this as vegan. And so once it does that, instead of saying something like, we use vegan ingredients, so it's clear to the consumer that it's not vegan throughout the preparation, that there's something to it. I mean, the answer probably is for vegetarians and vegans, if they have these concerns going forward, is to have inspection authorities like kosher and halal people do, so they could know if a restaurant's compliant or not and make their own decision. A lot of vegans and vegetarians won't care, just as a lot of Jewish people who don't eat pork will still eat in normal restaurants.
Sure. Oh, Sam, you have a take on this?
Yeah, I think it's totally a viable case. The reason is that this was completely a business decision by Burger King. I'm sure they must have done research on exactly their clients. The fact that they kind of did a shortcut through that means most likely like it was a business decision.
Yeah, I mean, all I know is they have this hot vegan product. They're selling it off the shelves. Cater to these people. Do it like don't spread this meaty grease all over their vegan stuff. Let them live.
So here's the funny thing about this, Benjy. This publicity and the news about them is probably gonna make them more money than whatever law say. Yeah,
absolutely crushing.
Everything is good for them.
No. This is the best publicity they've ever gotten. I really do think that if they took this guy, made him a hero, and say, you know what, you brought a great issue to our attention. Let's make you the vegan hero of Burger King. We'll make you the Verizon guy. And I think it's a great marketing opportunity. I couldn't agree more. Okay, so I want to go to legal tip of the week. Give the people an employment legal tip of the week.
Sure. So if you're an employee of a company as opposed to an owner or a true independent contractor, check your pay stub every time you get paid to make sure that you got paid for every day you worked in the pay period. And in California, toward that end, your pay stub has to state the beginning and end dates of the pay period to make it easier for you. And just make sure you were properly paid. From your pay stub, you're supposed to be able to see if you were paid for everything you were supposed to be paid for. If you can't verify that from your pay stub, the employer probably has a legal problem.
Cool. Okay, so I'm going to give you a really quick one. It's on personal injury. And so you need to have good auto insurance. What does that mean? You don't want to get into an accident and not be able to rent a car that's as good as the car that you have. You don't want to have a time limit on the amount of time that you have for your rental car. You want to make sure that no matter what happens with the other driver, they have insurance, they don't have insurance, you have sufficient insurance. It's called uninsured or underinsured motorist insurance. That if you have, it doesn't make a difference what insurance the other driver has. They could have zero. They could have zero like many drivers in California. They could have a lot. You don't really care because you already have your insurance and you know that if you're not at fault for this accident, you have sufficient coverage to cover your pain and suffering, your damages and loss of earnings, all sorts of stuff, but you need to have it. Sam, give the people some advice.
In business law, it's important to keep your business separate from what you're doing personally. So if you do have your own business, make sure to set up a separate business entity, either an LLC or an S corp. If you don't know, as a business lawyer, make sure to get that set up.
A business lawyer like Sam Mollaei.
It could be whoever. Make sure to set up the entity. Make sure to get your tax IDs. Make sure to have the operating agreement and bylaws in place. And then once you do that, then you want to go open up a separate business bank account, completely separate. And then every time you have any business expenses, you want to use a business credit card to pay off those business expenses, and then use your business checking account to pay off those business credit cards. That way you keep it very completely separate. But at the end of the year, when you have to do your taxes, you just hand off those bank statements to your accountant. The benefits of this is you'll be able to get business tax deductions. It's a lot of benefits that comes out.
I want to add a couple more onto those. Tell me if you agree. You also shield yourself from legal liability. You also, with certain entities, you can deduct from penny one all of your medical expenses, as opposed to if you do not have an entity, there's a limitation on what type of medical expenses you can take out. So that's great advice. So now we're going to move on to a segment that allows us to give you a recommendation. I, for some reason, from a very young age, have used the term deal a lot. So we're going to call it Deal of the Week. Whatever you're feeling like, Lou, what's your deal of the week?
My deal of the week is take care of your sleep health. So in this country, most people, myself especially included, are horribly sleep deprived, and it has all sorts of terrible consequences on your life. And when we go to the doctor, they're pretty good about checking things like whether your blood work has some abnormality or whether there's some majorly obvious abnormality. But a lot of people have undiagnosed sleep disorders that could be life-threatening over time. Sleep apnea causes high blood pressure, heart disease, you name it. And most people, unless they press their doctors, will never even get a sleep study to find out what is going on with them and why they can't sleep. And if you don't sleep and take care of your sleep health, every other aspect of your health and well-being will suffer.
That is some good stuff. Sam.
So one of the main keys to success is figuring out how to get to success. So success, there's a million ways to go about it. And the way to kind of figure out what are those tasks, what are those things that you need to do to get to success, you need to apply the 80-20 Pareto principle to it. If you don't know what that is, go Google it, read up on it. There's books on it, there's videos on it. 80-20 Pareto principle. What that says is that 80% of your results comes from 20% of your effort. So again, 80% of your results comes from 20% of your effort. So that means out of all the things that you do on a daily basis, there's 20% of your effort, things that you do, that brings about 80% of that output. So go figure out exactly what those top 20% tasks are and avoid the bottom 80 and just go focus on those top 20 over and over and over and over. So to just say when I have, let's say like I have 200 blog articles, if I learn something about how to do on-site SEO or affect something that I have to change something about my blog articles, I'm not gonna go sit there and go revise all my articles. I'm just gonna go find those top 3 or 4 blog articles that brings 80% of my traffic, which it literally does to them. If you get any kind of data and you do some analysis, you'll be able to see this 80-20 coming over and over, and just go apply to those top 4 pages. And just if you do that, then 80% of your effort, 80% of your output comes from that.
I love it. Okay, so mine is email. So email has been dominating me for a very long time. I've been trying to figure out, how do I organize email? I don't have a sponsorship yet, Boomerang, but Boomerang, the app, few things that it does. It pauses your email, right? So you could have your email flood in like 3 times a day. So you could have it paused, and you don't get these emails until these, like, let's say you set it for 8:30 a.m., 12:30 p.m., and 4:30 p.m. Basically, you have your emails that come out at 8:30, you work on them, you dispose of them, and then you don't have the rolling emails coming in, so you can just focus on other tasks. You don't need to be such a slave to your email. I love this thing. You could also send emails at specific times. So you could say it's Friday night, you feel like a creep because you're sending an email to somebody Friday night. You could say, you know what? Send this email at 8:45 a.m. on Monday. 2 things. You look like less of a creep, but also your email is not going to be at the bottom of this person's email list on Monday. It's going to be at the front because it's not going to roll in until 8:45 a.m. on Monday. One more thing it does. You get these emails, and then you basically tell it, you could say, oh, this email, I want to deal with this in 2 weeks, but it has no relevance to my life right now. I'm going to send it out of my life for 2 weeks and have it reappear in 2 weeks, and it appears back in your inbox. I love this app. My boy, Ara Gorian, told me about this app, and I love it. I really appreciate it, Ara. It's helped me very much. So we'd like to thank our sponsor, Rockpapr, found at getrockpapr.com. Get Rockpapr is spelled GETROCKPAPR, no E in the paper. Full disclosure, Aaron Wernick is one of my closest friends, but he's also the man. Rockpapr was founded in New York City in 2018 by former AdMeld, Google, and TapAd executive Aaron the Man Wernick. Rockpapr is changing the way business consumers make and track business purchases in the increasingly complex digital business ecosystem. We got to make sure that money's right, people, right? Right, Lou? Yes.
Yeah, always.
Okay. So a cutting-edge payment system with automated expense tracking. We use Rockpapr at Smith & Benowitz, and it's life-changing. We keep all our subscription on virtual credit. We automate every expense and no longer waste time submitting receipts and expenses to accounting. Rockpapr is currently in private beta, but for our listeners, they're accepting a limited number of new users. And friends of LawFlip can request the invite by going to rockpapr.com/LawFlip. Join the movement. Get Rockpapr. I want the people to know, because you got a lot to tell the people. Where are all the different places that people can find you, including how do you get into your private Facebook group that I learned so much from?
Yeah. So if you're a young entrepreneur, young lawyer, somebody who's fascinated by these topics we just had, Benjy, running a virtual law firm, running an online business, things like that, just email me. If you just Google my name, Sam Mollaei, you'll be able to find my website and see my reviews and see what I do. Just email me at sam@mollailaw.com or sam@legalfunnel.com. I'm very open to communication. I get mentored myself, and because I get mentored, I'm very open to mentoring other people. I love figuring out exactly what people are passionate about and helping them achieve that completely selflessly. I try to add on as much value as I can to the world, and hopefully I continue doing that.
Yeah, I believe that. You did that with me. Do you need to be a lawyer to be in your Legal Funnels Facebook group?
I prefer it, but if you're really intrigued about online marketing and pretty much running an online business, yeah, I'm open to that too. Just add me on Facebook, email me. I'll be happy to invite you.
Cool. Okay, really appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Look forward to having you back.
Thank you so much for having me.
And it was really nice.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, just wait. Next week, we'll be back with the heat. It may not be as hot as Sam. Look at those eyes. It may not be as hot as this week, but we're going to damn sure try.
LawFlip, objection, Your Honor. Turn the game upside down. LawFlip, objection, Your Honor. Turn the game upside down.
Okay, so Ariane, they're asking where they could find us. So for LawFlip, it's at LawFlip and LawFlip.com. For Smith & Benowitz, our law firm, which does personal injury, employment, and class actions, you can find us at Smith Benowitz and SmithBenowitz.com. For the personal stuff, like where you're really going to find the juicy stuff, at Benjy Smith and BenjySmith.com, at Wages Guru and LewisBenowitz.com for Lewis. Oh, so LawFlip is produced, directed, and edited by the young legend Aryan Tabibi, and visual effects and compositions by another young legend, Oren Azad. Intro music provided by Pen Practice. Pen Practice, what is it? Premium instrumentals for upcoming artists by the music industry's top producers. For more info, visit penpracticemusic.com. I had so much fun recording the intro song with my man Hilton Deuce Wright. Looking forward to hearing more and more from Pen Practice. So the LawFlip identity, this hot logo that you're looking at, created by Garrett Whiston and Travis Nagel. Special thank you to Shai and Seth from the Horwitz Marketing Agency. A huge thank you to Aaron and Vanessa from Smith & Benowitz for endlessly dealing with all of our podcast bullshit. And lastly, a huge thank you to our beautiful wives, Julie and Lisa, for supporting our vision, and all the love to all of our 4 boys combined. Disclaimer, this podcast is made available by Smith & Benowitz for educational and entertainment purposes only. It is only intended to provide general information and opinions about legal and other concepts, and is not intended to be used as a source of legal advice or relied on for legal advice. By listening to this podcast, you understand that no attorney-client relationship is being formed between you and Smith & Benowitz or any of its attorneys. This podcast should not be used as a substitute for competent legal advice from a licensed professional attorney in your state.